wealth, fame, power. This is what you will achieve just from reading One Piece, the manga about the greatest adventure ever told. Following the death of Dragon Ball, the manga world needed a successor. Many mangakas have risen up to the challenge, but only one has been able to rival it. This is the Great Age of One Piece. That all said, I'm not gonna lie. I had no faith in this live-action adaptation at first, but I can proudly say that this one is watchable. You can watch it and go back to the rest of your day like nothing happened. There was so much stacked against this series. I feared it would just be the next stage of the live-action anime cycle, where the adaptation gets announced, we get skeptical, then the trailer gets announced, and we get hyped, then the show releases, and it flops. Rinse and repeat and repeat and repeat. As anime live-action adaptations go, they, from their very core, don't seem to respect the original medium itself. As if you're saying the original medium isn't good enough until it's live action, made by people who don't watch them and don't like them. I thought you didn't need to watch it to know it would be bad. There are just some things that you don't need to experience to know the outcome. For example, do I need to commit murder to know that killing is bad? No, because I can assume it is. And yes, I did just compare watching an anime live-action adaptation to murder because watching them will kill you on the inside. Guys, self-harm is never the answer. Oh, but Oda's working on it. Yes, and the show made him blind. But now, after it's all said and done, the show's actually fine. Everyone was surprised this turned out at all watchable. Oda is a manga artist, not a live-action filmmaker. He has an executive producer role, meaning that he was signing off decisions from across the world while filming. Hell, good live-action superhero movies are relatively new. It took them about 100 years before the actual first good one came out. Well, if superhero live actions can be good, what's stopping anime adaptations? Comic adaptations have a much broader storyline, so there's more to be able to adapt and change, while manga and anime have one overarching narrative that needs to be followed as closely as possible. But against all odds, these madlads did it. They made a show that wasn't the worst thing ever put to screen. Just like with video game movie adaptations, the standard for anime live action adaptations are so low that good enough was good enough. But why was this show just so watchable? Before we start, I just wanted to thank everyone who subscribed because of the Nika video. I appreciate that you could at least understand where I was coming from. You guys doubled my sub count and helped me achieve my air dreams of blowing me up. I am so insanely grateful for that, and now I'm just around the corner to 500k subs. Thank you. The show starts with the current king of the pirates set to be executed, and before death comes his way, a clearly paid op asks him the most important question to kick off the series. For real though, this guy is definitely a paid actor. I can see one of the Raja pirates paying him 100 berry, a script to read, and the slap on the ass to show him the punishment he'll face if he doesn't read his lines well enough. This entire season can be summarized as Luffy's hiring spree, where he has to subsidize his workload to others. My working game theory is that each season going forward will focus on a new Strawhat and how they impact the crew. That's why in the first episode, we get our main characters introduced as fast as possible. If there was a Strawhat hierarchy of attention given, it'll look something like this, where Luffy is the main star, Nami and Zoro get the second most amount of focus, and less time is spent with the rest of the crew. Luffy being centered as a chaotic neutral, and Nami and Zoro will attempt to pull him closer to their side to either being more chaotic or more lawful. What's interesting is that between all three mediums that One Piece is adapted into, it can't beat the bad pacing allegations. While in the manga, this isn't really a problem until about 600 chapters in, when things really start moving at a sluggish pace. The live action runs into the opposite problem, where everything goes by so quick that nothing feels like it's soaking in, and we're rushing from one scene to the next. Scenes are copied over from the manga without really understanding what made those original scenes so captivating. With only 8 episodes to cover 100 chapters of story, this was inevitable. If this was a one-time thing, it would be easy to forgive, but this happens all throughout the show, and it becomes hard to ignore after a while. What this unfortunately leads to is the Netflix version hits the main plot points, but not sufficiently getting to explore how each narrative beat should be reached, meaning the meat of the story is not fully delved in. From Kobe beating Luffy, to why Luffy frees Zoro, all of Usopp's arc, and all of Sanji's arc, and then Nami's liberation. None of these were properly explored, and delivered upon. It feels like the plot is moving these characters along when it should be the characters moving the plot. I never felt the same emotional highs I did in the original, because even though it might look like One Piece and sometimes sounds like One Piece, it fails in delivering that same spirit of One Piece. Can you imagine how frustrating it would be for someone to bring up an issue and not fully explain how they got to that point? Let's critically look at Nami's arc in the final 2 episodes, and how these 2 mediums show the same scene but tell a different story. Both hit the narrative beats of Nami holding secrets from the crew, seemingly betraying them, tries to deal with Arlong on her own, and when he double crosses her, she hits her rock bottom and is ready to let Luffy help her out. What the show fails at doing is explore how each scene leads to, huh? Where at the next part? Okay, no time to explain. If you're gonna watch this show, you should ask yourself these 2 questions first. Would you rather spend the next 3 months reading the greatest adventure ever written? No? Well, how about finding the time to watch a 1,000+ episode anime with inconsistent pacing and animation? No again? Well, do I have a good third option for you? If you're illiterate or not a weeb, and manga and anime are just too foreign of a concept, then this show is then perfect for you. Obviously, you can watch and like this show, and no one should take that away from you. Just know you're experiencing the most milquetoast version of it. So why are One Piece fans claiming this show is the GOAT since the last time Oda breathed? The thing you need to know about One Piece fans is that they've been to hell and back with this series. It's not so much just an amazing story to them, but it's become their whole life story. They are in a non-stop self-defense state, destroying anyone who criticizes their Gota. In 2004, the anime adaptation was released to the West, and 4Kids completely butchers it, reshaping it from a comedy you laugh with to a joke you laugh at. And if you were brave enough to read the manga after going through that butchering, you would discover the greatest adventure ever put to ink, like finding treasure beneath a mountain of trash. This unfortunately led to a minority Western audience, as a majority of children left and became Naruto-banned children refugees, thus creating a never-ending insecurity war between the 2 anime fanbases, of which one was more peak, because it's physically impossible to like more than one series. The Japanese anime was still going on at this point, but if you watch Laguna, you see the cracks starting to appear, such as bad pacing, stilted animation, 4 minutes of recaps, and so on, all to appease the Toei shareholders who never let their animators take breaks or have lives outside of their studio. Finally, after nearly 1,000 episodes and the animation gets a bump in quality, new character designers, better directors, hiring weebs, and creating a beautiful line quality filter. And after all this, a new rival show, Demon Slayer, appears and outperforms it in sales. So naturally, the fans went into full cope mode to find any silver lining. In short, if Oda was somehow a part of it, it becomes peak, and anyone that disagrees is a nitpicking hater. There are 2 types of people who enjoy One Piece. The first group are people who really enjoy the overall narrative Oda is telling, but can call it BS when they see it. These people are fans of One Piece. The other group blindly praise everything Oda does, believe he's planned every aspect of the story ahead of time, and every piece of dialogue is foreshadowing. These people are One Piece fanatics, or One Piece fans for short. These are the same people that were ready to riot because the live-action actor of Luffy didn't wear sandals for his costume, as 8 hours of filming for months wearing sandals would cut into his feet, and these guys were furious. Just wait until they discover the actor isn't actually a rubber man. They're gonna have a full-blown meltdown. Don't get me wrong, Oda is worth praising. People have made livelihoods simply talking about One Piece. That's how captivating the story is. One group of One Piece YouTube content that formed is the classic theory video. There's so much clear and obvious foreshadowing inserted into the story that it's led to fans speculating what the future of the series could hold. Oda's ability to foreshadow story events is so great that he has influenced other artists to speculate how his story will play out. Don't believe me? Here's this One Piece theory in a form of a song made by Taylor Swift titled Daylight. I'll tell you the truth, but never goodbye. This song is clearly from Luffy's perspective, as he believes telling the truth even at his own detriment, but doesn't say goodbye as he believes he will see his friends one day again. I've been sleeping so long in a 20-year dark night, and now I see daylight. I only see daylight. Taylor is setting up the time frame of the main narrative. After Roger's death, that there is a 20-year long night till Luffy comes and brings out the sun. Clearing the air, I breathe in the smoke. Most likely a reference to Luffy clearing the skies above Onigashima, and once he gets bonked down by Kaido, we see the twist that he had smoke containing his lungs this whole time. I've been sleeping so long in a 20-year dark night, and now I'm wide awake, and now I see daylight. Daylight. I only see daylight. And here, she lays down the central theme of One Piece, that Luffy will bring the dawn of sunlight to those around him, and once he does, the world will not want to go back to sleep. I once believed love to be black and white, but it's golden. As most One Piece theories, there is some speculation. Just like most others, she wrongly assumed that Luffy's Gear 5th would not be black and white, but a golden-haired savior, when in fact it was the opposite. That is a power writing lore so vague that the audience can fit it to their own personal headcanon down the line. Now that I made one One Piece video, I've awakened my future sight. I can now see the secrets of making a One Piece theory video. All you need to do is take a bunch of buzzwords, throw darts at the board to see which you should use, and add the greatest in the title, and whatever sticks is what I'll pretend to believe is the future of the series. Let me put my One Piece theory mind on and interpret the meaning of the season and future season for the series. Let me put my here as a child. And what you should keep track of is that he gets about 10 shades lighter as a grown adult. Oda here using an ancient technique called symbolism, foreshadowing Luffy must be a sheltered boy as a child, lacking vitamin D and proper nutrients from the sun. That must be what the will of D is. Secret wording that Luffy will bring the sun to any island he visits through his will. As we see the sun and then Luffy right afterwards. This is clear and obvious foreshadowing that Luffy is symbolic for being the next sun god, and this boy will bring joy to all around him. I'm so glad Oda left all this obvious foreshadowing that you'd have to be an idiot not to pick up. Why else would Sanji call Luffy Chore Boy?
Sorry, Chore Boy. Sorry, Chore Boy. Sorry, Chore Boy.
Which sounds so similar to Joy Boy, if not to hint at this future plot point. And Inaki Good Boy does what his name suggests and is the best good boy for this role. Zoro's character was handled extremely well also. I do think this Mihawk fella is a red herring for his final enemy, as he wants to become the greatest swordsman and prove his dead friend wrong. However, she was not slain by a sword, but by a lack of strong female beliefs and a bunch of stairs. Why do you think Zoro refuses to take the stairs when it's the obvious path to take? He is still irreversibly scarred from that experience. That was the reason why Oda kept him away from Whole Cake Island, as there would be a lot of running up castle floors and the color pink, which is associated with females. Thus, it would force Zoro to complete his arc early. That's why I think it's important he has to defeat a sentient staircase that identifies as a female for his final bout. Another reason why Mihawk won't be his final fight is because he is a white man. We learned in the previous manga arc that Zoro originates from the land of racists, and even after 20 years of being tortured for being little shits, their new ruling body and Zoro's love interest confirms it's because they weren't racist enough. What the actual fuck? Zoro had these beliefs so ingrained into his psyche from Kuina being based and red-pilling him that when he faced his strongest opponent yet, instead of showing us how Zoro was able to figure out his weakness, he thinks the key to beating him is understanding what his race is. Lucky for Zoro, there's a darker skinned clone of the #1 swordsman for him to fight and to go all out on. It definitely makes sense that Oda was foreshadowing this through the wide range of characters Zoro faced through the series. One thing the live action genuinely did better than both the manga and the anime is destroy the Nami same face syndrome that Oda has not been able to overcome for the past 26 years. If I showed you this picture, you might be thinking, "Lad, why did you show me the roster of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate?" Dear viewer, that is not the game roster, nor is it the same girl in different outfits. Those are in fact all different characters. The One Piece live action could have gone the safe route and just green screen Nami's actor's face on a different body and have her play all these different roles like they did for the Social Network, but these guys went above and beyond and hired a completely different actor. What mad lads, physically showing us that Nami is not like other girls. Usopp's live action actor is so well cast that he both looks like Usopp and his dad Yasopp. One tiny complaint is that they didn't CGI stretch his nose out. And if you're looking for a nose stunt double to green screen on top of him, my nose is available. And Sanji has always been the character that gets ignored and goes unnoticed, so naturally they didn't give him a character arc. The best aspect the show has to offer is the main cast they selected. I think they all genuinely are perfect in terms of appearances and the way they portray their characters. So let's speculate who they'll be getting for the future seasons of the show. Here are my picks for future Straw Hats. Spoilers if you can't dedicate 4 months straight to finish reading the manga. Chopper. Whatever they do, please do not make him a PS3 CGI looking model. Yes, he's supposed to be a monster, but he will look more like an abomination. You don't have the money to render him for the next 20 years worth of content. Make a puppet for his hybrid form, we barely see him in his animal form, so who cares, and get the Rock on call for his human form. Robin. Jamie Lee Curtis has already shown interest, and what better way to show that Robin is a more mature member of the crew than to get someone who's significantly older than everyone else. Frankie. A disabled blue-haired artist, just pick someone up from your local community art college. Brooke. Michael Jackson's corpse should be rotting in his grave right around now, and there's never been a better time to defile a grave. Jinbei. According to Oda, if Jinbei was based on the real world, he would have been Indian. With that tidbit, when I say Asian actor, who comes to mind? You might be thinking Steven Yeun or Aziz Ansari, but you'd be wrong to think that. That's right. When I think of an Asian actor, I'm talking about the one and only Scarlett Johansson. In her own words, she's so talented, she can play a tree if she wants to. So an overweight Sharkman karate master, that's child play for her. Carrot. Yamato. And that concludes the section for who I think they should cast for all the upcoming Straw Hats. All in all, the show exceeded my expectations, which, to be honest, were as low as Fishman Island. But that's besides the point. The show has been a success, and hopefully it can prove to other studios that the best way to adapt a series is by actually respecting the property. I am worried to see how they'll adapt future arcs, as the story both visually and narratively only gets wilder as the series progresses. But hey, they prove they're capable of not butchering the prologue, so I'm more open-minded to what comes next. The show won't blow your mind away, but it also won't melt your eyes out.